We all know how DLC works. You pay 20 bucks, you download a file, and the game lets you access content that was probably already on the disc. But in 1994, you couldn't download anything. So when Sega wanted to release an expansion pack, they didn't send you a file. They sent you more hardware. See, on a PC, updating the game was easy. You had a hard drive, you just add files. But console cartridges are read-only memory. Once they are printed, they are written in stone. You cannot change the code inside. So Sega didn't just make a new game, they engineered the only cartridge in history, essentially mod other games to fix them. This is the story of the only physical DLC ever made, why it was a desperate move to save a broken game, and why nobody has ever tried it afterwards. To understand why this plastic flap is genius, you have to look at the alternative. In the early 1990s, if a developer wanted to fix a bug or add a new character, they didn't just push an update. They charged you full price for a new cartridge, and nobody was worse at this than Capcom. Let's say you bought Street Fighter 2 in 1992. It cost $70. That's about $150 in today's money. But then you realize you can play as the boss characters. So 1 year later, you had to go back to the store and pay another $70 for the Champion Edition. Then you realized the game was too slow, so you paid another $70 for Hyper Fighting. Imagine if Call of Duty charged you $150 every time they nerfed a shotgun. That was reality. By 1994, gamers were exhausted. We were tired of buying the same game twice. Sega realized if they wanted to fix Sonic 3, they couldn't just release Sonic 3 Turbo. They had to do something that had never been done before. They had to let us keep the game we already bought while selling us the rest of it. Originally, there wasn't supposed to be a Sonic & Knuckles. There was just supposed to be Sonic 3. The plan was to create the most ambitious platformer ever made. Huge levels, 3 characters, and a massive save file system. But halfway through development, Sega hit 2 walls. First, the technology. The game they built was 34 megabits. In 1994, that was astronomical. Fitting that into a single cartridge would have cost a fortune to manufacture. Second was the deadline. Sega had signed a massive promotional deal with McDonald's for a Happy Meal tie-in. The launch date was set in stone for February 2nd, 1994. So they had a game that was too expensive to print and too big to finish on time. Most companies would have just cut half of the content and thrown it in the trash. But developers at Sega Technical Institute refused to kill the game. Instead, they took a chainsaw to the code. They released the first half of the game as Sonic 3 to hit the McDonald's deadline, and then the second half they saved that for later, but they needed a way to tell the Genesis that these 2 games were actually one single game. So how does that actually work? When you lock Sonic 3 onto the top of Sonic & Knuckles, the cartridge acts as a zipper. It recognizes the specific header data from the attached game, bypasses the boot sequence, and stitches the 2 ROMs together in real time. Suddenly, the launch base zone doesn't end with a credit screen. It transitions seamlessly into Mushroom Hill. The game becomes whole. But the lock-on technology didn't just glue 2 games together, it fundamentally changed how Sonic 3 was played. If you played Sonic 3 by itself, it was a great game. It felt finished. You fought the final boss, the credits rolled, and that was it. But when you lock it on, the game realizes that it isn't finished anymore. One of the changes is the power scale. In the base game, if you collected all 7 Chaos Emeralds, you became Supersonic, and that was the ceiling. But Sonic & Knuckles introduced the Super Emeralds. If you took your clear save file from Sonic 3 and kept playing, you could upgrade your emeralds, and this unlocked Hyper forms. Hypersonic could destroy enemies just by double jumping. Hyper Knuckles had the ability to cause earthquakes, and it actually gave Tails a super form where he is protected by an army of invincible birds. This is the difference between the sequel and the expansion. The sequel will start you over back at level 1, but with this expansion, you don't have to just start over from scratch. You can pick up back where you left off. But honestly, it wasn't all just good news. If you play Sonic 3 by itself, the final boss was Big Arms. It was an intense, high-stakes fight with one of the best music tracks in the franchise. But when you lock it on, the game realizes that you aren't at the end anymore. So it literally deletes the Big Arms fight from Sonic's campaign. Before Big Arms, you had to go with the Egg Rocket by himself anyway, but I would have much rather preferred that they had gotten rid of the Egg Rocket over Big Arms. Big Arms is a much more challenging fight. And they didn't just stop with this boss, they actually got rid of some of the better sounding tracks in this game. If you played Sonic 3 by itself, you'll remember Knuckles having a very specific theme song. They also had a similar boss theme. This beat was something that sounded suspiciously like something Michael Jackson would be a part of. But Sonic & Knuckles cartridge didn't like that song apparently, because when you lock it on, the cartridge forces its own sound driver to take over and it deletes some of these tracks to have a completely different feel. Legal reasons, I'm sure. But I guess that was the price of admission, because in exchange for losing that one boss fight, we gained an actual ending to the story. If you played Sonic 3 by itself, Knuckles was just a massive plot hole. He harasses you for 6 zones, laughs at you, and then apparently falls for eternity, I guess. There is no redemption with him. It feels like watching a movie that cuts to black halfway through the second act. But Sonic & Knuckles shows his full story. You finally see him get betrayed by Robotnik. You see in this moment he realizes that he was on the wrong side. Then you get to play his side of the story, fighting a frantic battle against Egg Robo to save the Master Emerald. This transformed Knuckles from an enemy to an ally. And it did it by physically editing the game you already owned. But the most impressive fix wasn't even in the code, it was in the hardware. If you look at the circuit board of Sonic & Knuckles, you'll notice something missing. There is no save battery. If you play the game by itself, you cannot save your progress. It was a massive flaw, but only when playing Sonic & Knuckles by itself. The developers knew they were going to use the battery from Sonic 3, so they saved money by not adding another to Sonic & Knuckles. And it acted as a performance patch. Sonic 3 was rushed. It suffered from some bad slowdowns. The Sonic & Knuckles cartridge contained a newer, optimized version of the game's engine. So when you played through the lock-on, you weren't playing on the code from the top cartridge anymore. You were playing Sonic 3 levels running on the superior Sonic & Knuckles engine. It was a console equivalent of downloading new drivers. But here's where it gets weird. They programmed the cartridge to recognize Sonic 2, patching Knuckles into the game that came out 2 years earlier. But what happens if you plug in Barbie Supermodel or FIFA? The cartridge tries to read the data, realizes it's not Sonic, and triggers a failsafe. It takes the binary data of whatever cartridge you inserted and converts it into a unique blue spear special stage. That means Sonic & Knuckles isn't just a platformer, it's a level generator with over 134 million unique stages. Sega built a procedural engine in 1994 that turned your entire library of games into infinite content. Looking back, Sonic & Knuckles was a technological dead end. Just 12 months later, the PlayStation arrived, CDs took over, storage became cheap, and the idea of lock-on cartridge became obsolete basically overnight. We got what we wanted, easier updates, cheaper games, and instant downloads, but we also lost something. When you bought Sonic & Knuckles, you didn't just buy a license to access content. You bought a mechanical key that unlocked the potential of your own library. It was tangible and it was yours. Today, DLC is something that happens to us. We pay for it, we download it, and when the servers go down, it disappears. But this is permanent. It works today exactly like it did 30 years ago. No servers, no updates, no internet required. Sega proved that an expansion pack could be more than just a cash grab. It proved that it could be a masterpiece. It's just a shame that the only time the industry got this DLC right was the first time they tried it. Thanks for watching. I would like to ask a question. Is there a game that you know that you would have liked to have this lock-on technology? You know, give an expansion pack, DLC, however you want to call it. Let me know in the comments. I'm thinking about doing more think pieces like this along with my retrospectives, but y'all let me know if I should keep this going. More videos are on the way, but until then, I would suggest you check out my Ristar retrospective. That's a pretty good one. I'll see y'all in the next one.